one begins to understand why Slim wanted control of the newspaper of record. Since Slim saved the paper in 2008, the Times has been fervent in its support of illegal immigration. Oddly, for a newspaper based in America, the Times celebrates the vast amounts of money being sucked out of the U.S. economy. The Times thinks it's great that the poor themselves decide how much money to transfer from our economy to their home country's economies. But that's because such remittances are a crucial part of Slim's business plan. In 2014, when banks raised their fees for transfers of money out of the United States to avoid abetting money laundering, the Times rebuked the financial institutions, saying, "It is not credible for banks to suggest that it's too hard to tell suspicious transfers to, say, Sudan from legitimate remittances to, say, guess which country? Guess. That's right, Mexico." Rushing to protect Slim's money stream, the Times editorial demanded that other secure low-cost options be found, even suggesting that the World Bank get into the remittance business. The Times chose to publish this editorial on transfers of money to Mexico at a time when there was other news in the world: the U.S. primary elections, a Supreme Court decision on religious freedom and Obamacare, new Obamacare website glitches, illegal aliens pouring across the border, more shootings in Chicago, an Ebola virus outbreak in Africa, Russia violating a missile treaty, Israeli airstrikes on Palestinians, new Snowden revelations about the CIA spying on Germany, global warming still incinerating the planet, and the Republicans' infernal war on women. True, people have different ideas about what constitutes a major stop-the-presses story and what's desection stuff, but making it easier for foreigners to transfer money out of the U.S. economy was an odd choice for an editorial. Instead of another hard-hitting piece on the glass ceiling, the Times chose to devote valuable editorial space to fretting over a potential slowdown in Carlos Slim's collection of $20 billion from Mexicans living in the United States. It would be as if the Times had been rescued by Google and then began indignantly defending corporate tax havens. The New York Times is far more compromised by having Carlos Slim as its sugar daddy than any conservative is by the Koch brothers. The Times is not just beholden to Slim. He holds the very life of the paper in his pinky-ringed, perfumed, fat Mexican hand. Normally, it's easy to predict the New York Times' position on any issue because A, it never changes, and B, it is referenced on a weekly basis in the pages of the Times. But that's not true of immigration. Since Slim waddled in, the Times has altered its stance from mild concern about illegal immigration to bubble-headed cheerleading for illegal immigration. Cheerleaders. Our team is awesome. But seriously, you have to admit that Duke has a better basketball team than Yeshiva. Cheerleaders. No, Yeshiva rocks. We rule. How else can one explain the Times responding to a surge of hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants into the country by calling for Congress to grant them amnesty, and with passion? According to the Times, Obama's most urgent priority in response to an invasion along our southern border should be giving these children lawyers and caregivers. This wasn't run-of-the-mill liberal insanity. A few days earlier, Washington Post editor Charles Lane wrote, "Only by showing people there is nothing to be gained by paying traffickers for the traumatic voyage through Mexico will the chaos cease." Of course, Lane hadn't been bailed out of bankruptcy by Carlos Slim. The Times changes its tune. If the lunacy of the Times editorials doesn't grab you, how about the fact that the newspaper has become noticeably hysterical about illegal immigration since Carlos Slim came on board? In 1997, the pre-Slim days, the Times had editorialized, "Fighting illegal immigration is a difficult and important job, but Congress should do it in a way that will deter illegal entry at the border." Another editorial that year complained that the Immigration and Naturalization Service had done a poor job of keeping out illegal aliens, deporting criminals, and processing requests for asylum. This wasn't even Bush bashing. Clinton was president. Post-Slim, the Times tends more toward deranged hectoring in favor of illegal immigration. In the Times' 2014 Go Big editorial, the one insisting that Obama grant permanent residence to illegal immigrants streaming across the border, the Times sniped, "Republicans will howl over Mr. Obama's solo actions. Let them." The Times should never stop hearing about Carlos Slim. By all the rules of the left, you're not supposed to trust someone beholden to a rich man, especially one with a specific interest in public policy. If Slim had saved any company in the world other than the New York Times, his sleazy insider deals and business model based on mass illegal immigration to the United States would absolutely be a problem. But you forgot something. We're the New York Times. We're the good guys. You're not factoring that in. In 2012, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, issued a scathing report on Slim, accusing him of impoverishing Mexico while feathering his own nest with a telephone monopoly. Slim's control of 70% of the mobile market in Mexico, far higher than in any other country in the OECD, allows him to pocket a profit of nearly twice the world average for major telecommunications companies. As Porter put it in the once trusted pages of the Times business section, Mr. Slim is richer even than the robber barons of the Gilded Age. It takes about 9 of the captains of industry and finance of the 19th and early 20th centuries, Rockefeller, Cornelius Vanderbilt, John J. Astor, Andrew Carnegie, Alexander Stewart, Frederick Weyerhaeuser, Jay Gould, and Marshall Field, to replicate the footprint that Mr. Slim has left on Mexico. At least those magnates created something. Slim was handed a monopoly for a fully developed product which he has done nothing to improve upon, unless threatening to imprison your competitors is considered a major innovation. When government officials pressured Slim to stop gouging Mexicans for their Telmex phone service in 2006, Slim demanded that the officials be thrown in jail. A spokesman for Slim's Telmex later admitted the threat, clarifying to the Columbia Journalism Review that imprisonment was not the goal. Well, yeah, obviously. The goal was to block government interference in his monopoly so he could keep fleecing Mexicans. Carlos Slim has shown more gusto for arresting Mexicans than our own Border Patrol has. When competitors were eventually allowed in, the Times Porter wrote in 2007, Telmex kept them at bay with some rather creative gambits, like getting a judge to issue an arrest warrant for the top lawyer of a competitor. One of Slim's business rivals, speaking anonymously, told The New Yorker about 2 guys showing up at his office and informing him that if we didn't take down our microwave link, Telmex was going to cut all our telecommunications. That was done by the man the New York Times is in hock to. Because of Slim's government-granted monopoly, Mexico is, according to the OECD, dead last among OECD countries in the number of fixed telephone lines per capita, 17 per 100 people. Second to last in the number of cell phones per person, and third from last in broadband penetration, with Mexico doing better than only Turkey and Chile. Mexico is far from the poorest Latin American nation, it's about mid-range, but it has the fewest cell phones per capita of any Central or South American country. 98% of Venezuelans have cell phones. Only 78% of Mexicans do. The Internet has changed the world, except in Mexico, where Slim's monopoly ensures that broadband is twice as expensive as in any other OECD country. When Mexican professor and journalist Denise Dresser returned to Mexico after several years abroad, she was shocked to discover that the exact same telephone internet setup she had in Los Angeles would cost 3 times as much. I started studying why the Mexican economy doesn't grow, Dresser said. So much led me back to Carlos Slim. Her body has never been found. Joke, I think. In the Economist's ranking of crony countries, the magazine reported that Mexico was one of the worst, quote, mainly because of Carlos Slim. Slim steals from the people, and the people love him. To many Mexicans, the New Yorker said, Slim's wealth is a matter of pride. A 2009 poll found Mexicans ranking Slim the great leader Mexico needs. They might want to reconsider that. Slim isn't Mexican. He's of Lebanese descent. Usually someone in Slim's position is known as an imperialist oppressor. This is the man to whom the New York Times owes its lifeblood. Without a monopoly, Slim doesn't look like such a genius. He bought CompUSA in 2000. By 2008, the company had closed its doors. He bought a gold mine in Mexico just before the floor dropped out on gold. His purchase of a portion of the UK Independent in 2008 was, as he admitted, a mistake, a bad one. The single good investment Slim has made may well be his decision to bail the New York Times out of imminent collapse. True, the stock crashed from $15 to $6 as soon as Slim began acquiring shares. Even Times insiders thought Slim's investment was, quote, crazy. But what they don't understand is that Slim relies on immense continuing Mexican immigration to the United States, both legal and illegal, for his fortune. Buying pro-illegal immigration coverage in America's most influential newspaper was a wise business investment.